Hi, so I'm Laura Lewis, and today I'm going to be sharing our journey of Squirrel's Nest. Thank you to Farm and Connect for asking me to share our journey. We're very privileged. It was pretty miserable outside, but it's quite sunny here now where I am. But at least you're indoors, and I hope that this webinar is of some help to you. So this is us. John is a carpenter by trade. He's worked all over the UK constructing oak framed houses for various big companies. He is the builder and site manager for Squirrel's Nest. I actually studied child development and education at university and went on to manage a community nursery, and then later coordinated a service for children with additional needs in Powys. So I've gone on to very different things in life. I'm actually from a farming family myself. I lived about 20 minutes away, but didn't actually meet John until I was 17. We got married 5 years ago, and we now live on the farm. We have 2 children, Charlie, who's 4, and Bertie, who's just turned 2. And in order to be at home more, I decided to leave employment and focus on developing the new holiday let business. So we live on a hill farm in mid Wales. In total, there is 130 acres with hill rights, so it's relatively small. We knew that in order to secure a future for the farm, we had to diversify somehow. We spent many evenings discussing options. At first was chickens. We did actually apply for a 16,000 hen egg shed. It was about 10 years ago now. The cost implications did concern us. Access was a huge issue. We're in quite a rural location, and the only field we could use was through the farm because we're next to a triple SI. So yeah, cost was a huge issue. And did we even like hens? I'm not a particular fan of hens, and I said that I wouldn't be helping. And John was the same. So I don't really know why we were looking into it, but we needed to diversify, and at the time, it was just an option. Costs were huge. It was a big gamble for us, so we sort of chickened out of it. Lodges or pods. So we did discuss lodges. Local farmers were erecting lodges in our area, so it was something that we spoke about because John could possibly build them. But that back then we did wonder if there was too many in our area and how would we stand out. So what was our USP, our unique selling point? Why would people want to come to us on our farm in the middle of nowhere? Why would people come and stay with us? I'm sorry, and where were we too far from anywhere? Because we're about 2 hours from Birmingham, 2 hours from Cardiff. So city people wanting to escape, were we too far? So research, we spent months researching the market on what essentially John could build that could potentially earn us a good income. We looked at companies like Sykes, cottages.com, Canopy and Stars. We scoured the internet for research and inspiration, specifically booking agents that advertise sort of different types of accommodation as such. We looked at what booking agent we would go with. These were all things that we had to weigh up, really. We came across online directories, so something called Cool Stays and Host Unusual. Again, listing lots of unique and quirky places. It just seemed that different seemed to be quite trendy. So the location was also a concern for us. We live about 1,000 feet above sea level. There aren't particular attractions around us, and what would drive them to mid Wales? These were concerns. Sorry, I'm going a bit too far here. So yeah, they were really concerns of ours. So then it was decision time. We decided that we were going to go for a tree house. The main reasons for this were John could build it, so it was a cost saving for us. And it stood out as being different, essentially, and there wasn't anything in our area that were doing anything similar. Planning, so we approached a local architect who devised our plans. It went into planning and we didn't actually get approval for 9 months. I think due to the fact that it was quite a unique project and what type of approval it actually did need delayed things. So it turned out that we had to comply with building regulations, and that was to include a sprinkler system, and that was something we hadn't really thought about or budgeted for. So the bank, we had funding for this project through a loan from our bank and had to supply quite a comprehensive financial plan, which outlined costs and a basic view as to what we could potentially earn by comparing the project to other similar projects on booking agents. So looking at their pricing structures and sort of comparing things. So a business plan, I didn't actually have one when we started out. I wish I had done one. I have now, but it would have made me feel a lot more focused and organised as there was a plan to stick to. It's been quite chaotic. So if this is something you are thinking about doing, I would suggest devising a business plan early on. So the build, it took around 8 months. And like I previously said, our challenges were the time the application was in planning for. We assumed it was going to be 8 weeks. But like other applications, but things came up. They noticed that from looking back at old OS maps that we were actually next to an ancient site, and this put us on hold for quite a good month because they felt that we needed an archaeological dig. Yes, that would cost an absolute fortune, but thankfully we were far enough away and we weren't going to affect the area at all, so that was a huge relief. Building regulations, so we hadn't accommodated for what was required from them, so it was a bit of a setback as we had to reconsider the layout as the accommodation needed to be user friendly. It was quite frustrating at the time because we were wanting to build a tree house, and it was essentially the vibe was going to be going away, and to have a ramp up to the front door just wasn't with what we sort of imagined. So we did negotiate with the officer, but ultimately these things we didn't consider when we were planning. I think because it was different, it made the project quite unique, and it wasn't clear what was required in order for us to comply. The weather was absolutely awful the year we were building Tryscombe. We had a huge amount of rain in the December and the worst snow for like 50 years or something in the February. So the whole job was at a standstill for nearly 3 months. Yeah, so the actual treehouse as well was about 3 fields away from the farm. So in order to get all of the materials over there, we were having to lug things with a tractor and trailer, and with the wet ground, it was just a nightmare. So we just decided to leave it for the time being, and we started again in the March. So Tryscombe, we finally opened the doors in 2018. So we advertised with Canopy and Stars. So they take 25% per booking. So it's quite a large amount. But they got us the bookings. We were more or less fully booked for about 4 months ahead of ourselves. So it was excellent. 2 online directories then approached us to list, and because it was simply a directory, we weren't in breach of any contract we were having with Canopy and Stars, so we gave them a go and just hoped that we were going to get some good results. So they were the companies that we advertised with initially. So the bookings for 2018 and 2019 were just absolutely flying in. We were just so pleased as a family. We just didn't think anyone would want to come to us. But the reviews were great, and yeah, it was really, really exciting. We decided we were going to go for another because there was the demand. We felt that we had the opportunity to do it. But the issue and the question was where on the farm. We felt it needed to be quite far from the other tree house because people were saying that they enjoyed how secluded it was and how remote and the peace and quiet. So yeah. So Cadwallons. So Cadwallons, it's about 2 fields away from Tryscombe, and it looks over the Radnor Valley. So it's got amazing views from there. So very different to Tryscombe, so that's very secluded. So we started the build of Cadwallons in October 2018, just after we had Bertie, actually. And again, from research, we thought to spend more money on the design of both the build and the interiors to make it stand out and essentially have that wow factor. John wanted to use an old oak frame on the build, and with the support from our architect, we decided to build this amazing gable end, which has a floor-to-ceiling glass. I wanted to put a copper bath in the first tree house, but it was just such a risk at the time because we were thinking, gosh, it's a lot of money, and would people be coming here? Oh, sorry, there's something on my home screen there that's popping up. But we decided to go for it with Cadwallons. So Cadwallons was established in 2019. To date, this has been our most popular treehouse. We are more or less fully booked until July next year. The copper bath and the unique structure is definitely a selling point. So commission versus listing. So we are listed with both a booking agent and an online directory. And although the booking agent gets us lots of bookings, they charge 25% commission. So that's a huge amount. We're talking thousands a year. The listings on directories work really well and drive us lots of direct messages, which are essentially commission free. We arrange payments with guests over a messaging system and just simply block out the dates in the owner area then. So it works really, really well. So my top tips. So research, if you're doing any diversification with accommodation, I would say research and get a really, really good photographer to take lovely shots of your space, because photos simply sell. Branding, look at logos, your colours, a theme to your advertising, if that's something that you want to pursue, of course, because it looks really professional and it's appealing to guests. If you want direct bookings, get a website. You can either pay a developer or design one yourself using platforms such as WordPress. So marketing, if you're wanting to further promote your space and advertise to drive more bookings, I would suggest getting on social media, as essentially that is where people are. If you think about it, there's not many people you don't know that are on Facebook. Sign up to the two main platforms, Instagram and Facebook. And then ads is an option. This could be Google ads, Facebook or Instagram ads, and they all have a good way of further promoting your accommodation. They come at a cost, and you should monitor the impact of these through your financial plan and Google Analytics, which I'll go into shortly. So Instagram. So it was actually a couple of my friends of mine, it was about 18 months, 2 years ago now, Instagram addicts, and they were like, you need to get these tree houses on Instagram. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I decided to create a page, and it's literally been, honestly, a learning journey. I've just learned as I've gone along. It is a slog, it's hard work, and there is a huge amount of commitment in order to increase your following. So in 2 years, we've got to 2,500, but we are really pleased. I should definitely be more organised with it all and plan and schedule posts, but I'm going to, I should, but I don't. It's just something I need to work on, and it's utilising my time better. Because posts, things, they do take time, and it's making sure that you're getting the right things out there to your followers, so that they essentially book. What have I learnt? So you need to be Instagrammable. What does that mean? So you want people to share your space on their profiles, which essentially advertises you. So the copper bath and the transporting of luggage in the wheelbarrows to our accommodation is definitely things people take photos of. From the house, you can see people checking in the distance, and they're taking photographs of themselves pushing wheelbarrows. Like, it seems nuts to me, but to people coming from the city, it's just quirky and different. And then they upload it onto Instagram, tag us in, and it's all adverts. Engage with your followers. So share with so show them that there are people behind the business. So engage with them, respond to comments, reply to your messages, show that there are people behind it all and that you're a family, because people do invest with that. They would rather book with you than a corporate business or corporate hotel in Cardiff, because they feel that they're helping a small business. Be consistent, something I need to get better at again. You need to post at least once a day in your stories so that you're seen and you're reminded of. So the statistics. So our 2021 bookings show that currently 70% are direct, straight to us. So we've come a long way since June 2018, when we went 100% with Canopy and Stars. So it's such a huge cost saving for us. This is either through social media, paid ads, or online directories. This has increased significantly since the coronavirus pandemic, as UK staycations are on the rise. So bookings are just flying in not at the moment though, because we're going into lockdown on Friday. But yeah, for next year, they're just flying in. People are wanting to plan holidays. Google Analytics. So if you have a website, you need to set up Google Analytics, which will show you where your traffic is coming from. So the top sites for us are Google, and that's organic searches. So people are actually Googling Squirrel's Nest, Instagram, CoolStays, which is that online directory I referred to, and then Facebook. So you will be able to target your audience better. So if you know that your top, your number one is Instagram, then you need to be up in your game on Instagram. If it's Facebook, you need to be up in your game on Facebook. So Treehouse number 3. So with the tourism sector booming in our area and a high demand for bookings, we just decided to go for one more. This one will sleep up to 7. And again, we're trying to make it unique and different to the others. So hopefully we're going to be finished by December, but who knows now with the circuit breaker and materials getting held up. But this is our biggest build yet. Upstairs, we'll have an open plan living area with seating and a king size bed. Downstairs, there'll be a kitchen, and from that, a bathroom and a bedroom, which can sleep up to 3. Above, there'll be a floor suspended hammock, and that will sleep a further 2 people. So how to get out there? Network with like-minded people, join groups, forums, courses to meet people who are going through a similar journey. If you don't ask, you don't get. Research, ask people for help and advice, approach people, they can only say no. Seize any opportunity. So when Farmer Connect asked me to do this webinar, I nearly said no, because I was just so nervous about something like this. I've never done anything like this before, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity of getting out there and for people to know about us and to share our journey. So all I would say is seize any opportunity that comes to you. So getting involved, I feel really privileged to have been to have secured a place on the Agri Academy 2020 and to have the opportunity to meet people from all kinds of backgrounds in the agricultural sector. COVID has unfortunately meant that the whole programme has been postponed until next year, where we hope to go on residential trips, including an overseas trip. But who knows, fingers crossed. We're hoping to keep in touch over Zoom and things, but it's just not the same. But I feel really privileged, and I'm just really excited to meet everybody. So what's next? We've always thought about other income streams for the farm. So we decided to go with a new venture. Due to so many farmers in our area diversifying into tourism, we thought there was a gap in the market for an online directory. We were so impressed with the model and the traffic it drives to our website. And in December this year, on just a random little caravan holiday, me and John just thought, yeah, let's just do it. Let's go for it. Why not? So we got the ball rolling. And in February this year, we approached our web designer and just said, let's try this. So Wanderlist launched in August this year. It's quite early days. We have 52 properties listed on the site currently, nearly 4,000 views since we launched in August this year. Lots of owners are getting commission-free bookings, which is really, really good, and they're really, really pleased. UK holidays are on the rise due to COVID, so we feel it's the perfect time to launch at the moment. Social media, again, plays a huge part in this new business. So what have I learnt? Nothing is not achievable if you put your mind to it. I was driven and determined, and I've put my all into Squirrel's Nest, into making it a success. I've learned that things take time. I'm quite impatient, and I want things done now. And I've learned that things just do take time. Plan. It's just something that I haven't really done, but we're starting to get a little bit better at it now. I sort of go with the here and now. So yeah, and my last is invest money to make money. For example, if we hadn't have got that copper bath, or if we hadn't have spent a little bit more time and effort and money in the structure of Cadwallons, would it be the success it is now? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed what I've said, and have you got any questions?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Laura. Very interesting discussion there. And can I congratulate you on the business you've got? It looks amazing in a way, and it sells itself without even having access to social media and so forth. It just looks well. So we've got questions coming through. If you've got any more questions, then please put them on the QA at the bottom, or if you're listening through Facebook Live, then please put them as a comment. So we'll go through the questions. So the first one is, did you get help with your business plan?
Yes, we did actually. Via Farm and Connect, we were able to get a grant that paid, I think, was about 70%, and we used a company called Lanska in South Wales. So it's very comprehensive, it's very detailed, but it's been really good actually to look over, and it's something that I will add to in the future.
Yeah, so as you said, Farm and Connect fund 2% funding towards a business plan. So Lanska and there's other companies available as well. If you wanted to have a chat with those advisors before going on to a full business plan, then that's the surgery where you can get an hour's free chat with companies like Lanska. There's also business plan templates on our websites, where you can do your own business plan and get that business plan reviewed by an advisor as well. So thank you for that. There's a question here about your planning reference number. Someone would like to read the report to understand the policies. So maybe if you're happy to share that, we'll get that person's email. I think they want to see how we've gone through the process of planning with that.
Okay.
There's a question, how did you find your architect?
It was somebody actually that we used for other projects that we're involved with. And the guy that we were using actually passed it on to a younger lad who is just loves our business, and he's just as excited about the design as we are. So we're really lucky. So yeah, he's really local in Llandrindod, so it works well, and he's often on site just seeing how we're getting on with the new build.
Good. Excellent. Right, there's a question regarding access to mains, water and electricity. What's the situation there with you?
Yeah, so we had to put an electricity connection in. So we dug a trench basically and had a cable put into the nearest pole. So that was a huge expense. It's actually cost around the 6,500 for each of the tree houses. So again, you can't really predict these costs until you get there. And then water, the 3 of them now actually are off a borehole. So we had a borehole put in. Again, a grant through Farm and Connect.
Yes. So is that the farm business grant? Is it the Welsh Government's?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. So that's reopening again as well.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of opportunity for that. Next question: are you in the national park? Do you think the national park would allow development like this?
No, we're not in a national park. We sit next to a 900-acre open hill, so we feel really lucky because all of our guests have got ample walking. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. You'd have to approach them and their legislations, really. Yeah,
so we've had many requests from people wanting to diversify. I'm not sure about the national park requirements and so forth. So we've sent a lot of people through the planning surgery, where you can have a free hours discussion with a planning advisor. And then they can advise you then what the requirements of a national park is if you're in one, or otherwise what the demand or what the criteria is for you. Next question: which online directories do you use?
So we use a company called Cool Stays and Host Unusual, and then obviously we're listed on our new online directory, Wunderlist.
Excellent. How do you work out your pricing structure?
Again, this was something that we could never have imagined. So before we opened with Trowscombe Treehouse, we tried selling the first couple of weeks on our own, just via social media, and we didn't have any uptake, and I think it was like £150 a night or something, and nobody was interested. So we were really, really worried when Canopy and Stars came out. But the pricing structure that they gave us was just amazing. I think it started at 170 a night then. And yeah, we got bookings. So it just goes to show, if it's on the right platform, it will sell, because at the time we couldn't sell it, and we were selling it for cheaper. So we just went with whatever Canopy and Stars felt. They seem to be the experts in the field, and we just match that now on our website.
So on that then, is it you think is it priority to get your business out there as soon as you can? So to take you know, kind of many platforms on board so you can get your name out there, or
yeah, you just have to be careful of the contracts. But like I said, Canopy and Stars are a booking agent, and so you wouldn't be able to advertise with another booking agent because that would be their contract. But online directories aren't booking agents, they're just a listing. So you're not in breach of a contract there. But for us, we would not be where we are now if it wasn't for a booking agent, because it got us out there, it got us the bookings. And to have a full calendar always looks good, doesn't it? So when people are coming onto your website and you can see you've got a full calendar, it looks good. So I would suggest, if you're starting out, to go with a booking agent or an online directory.
Excellent. Next question: how far do guests have to walk to lodges?
So Trowscombe is about a 10-minute walk from the car park. Like I said, a lot of people really enjoy it, actually. They all know prior to coming that there's no access by car. And again, this was an issue that building regs had, because it wasn't user friendly, and they were talking about us putting tarmac paths in, but we have negotiated, and we've used stone, and this third tree house will have a ramp to the front door. Yeah, these were cost implications that it was going a bit out of control at one point. So yeah, it's about 10 minutes, and then to Cadwallons, it's literally about a 3-minute walk.
Excellent. So that's part of experience then. People want
People
to
love
know the countryside and have the walk there, and to know it's kind of isolated, maybe.
Yeah. And for me, like when we were in lockdown, John and I and the boys went over to Trowscombe to stay. I much preferred that one because it was just that bit further away from home, and I could just disconnect a little bit more. And people say that in the reviews, they just feel like they can just disconnect with life because it's just in such a secluded spot, and having to walk out there, it's just not convenient to jump in your car and pop somewhere.
Excellent. So there's several questions on the utilities with regards to water and electricity. So was there any challenges with regards to getting access to those? Did you move the location of these to kind of make it easier?
No, we didn't actually. We chose the spot for we chose the tree, and then we looked about at the nearest possible pole. Like I think for Trowscombe and the third tree house, no, could be all actually. We've had to put exchanges on the poles, so it's cost a little bit less than taking it further to a further pole. But no, we went with the location over the distance to a pole, because essentially, yeah, it's about the location, isn't it? So again, it's sometimes you need to make money to spend money to make money, sorry. And we just felt that the location was the selling point. That's what was get us bookings.
So I suppose you tweak your business plan to kind of adapt with these costs, but I suppose the return on investment seemed feasible at that time.
Sorry, say that again.
You know, so with added cost on electricity and water, I suppose it's a return on investment in it. So I suppose it's feasible as an option.
Yeah. Then. Yeah.
Next question: a lot of people using the Airbnb. Is this something you've looked at?
Airbnb.
Yes.
I actually love Airbnb. We use them for another cottage that we've got. But at the moment, because it's an agent, we're not able to use them as well as Canopy and Stars. But again, I think they're a great platform, and the commission is next to nothing. and you can manage everything yourself, but I would recommend them, yeah. And they've actually got a bit of a sideline going on at the moment, because they've contacted us about listing Squirrel's Nest with them. So they're going down the quirky accommodation route, I think. Yeah, I would go with them. They're a great company.
Excellent. There's plenty of questions coming in. So the next question is with regards to grants. Were there any types of grants available towards the design and the build cost of the treehouse?
So when we built Treiscombe Cadwallons, no, but we are in the process of getting a grant through the Welsh Assembly Government for the third tree house. It is quite comprehensive, and we are in talks with them at the moment about quite a few issues. I think it's made it quite unique that John's building it, and they want a lot of paperwork for it all, and everything's obviously legit. It's just I think in normal circumstances people would come in and price a build, for instance, whereas we're not doing that because John's doing it all himself, so it's quite complicated, but we're hoping that we're going to get it. It's looking very promising, and part of it is that we will employ staff in the future.
Excellent. Next question is regard to planning. After getting planning with your first one, was getting planning for the other two easier?
Yes, much easier. Yeah, I think the second tree house was 3 months, so 12 weeks, and this one was only about 8 weeks. I think it was just quite a unique project to start with. It just took a bit of time, and then that archaeological dig scenario in the middle threw a bit of a spanner in the works. So yeah, I think they just didn't really know what to do at the time, and where we stood in terms of, because you can get a Caravan Act, but was it a Caravan Act, was it not, and just little things like that. But yeah, it was much quicker the second and third time round.
Brilliant. We mentioned a bit about the architects. Did you use specialised architect for designs for all?
Did we use a specialised? I don't think he specialises in designing tree houses. I just think he's just really keen and eager to design quirky, unique places. He's always messaging us like a possibility for a 4th or a 5th tree house with some like funky design. Yeah, he's just lucky in that he's just really eager.
Is that important then for someone wanting to start a new business? Is unique important?
I think so. Yeah, I think it needs to be unique. And if you look on companies like Cool Stays, Hosts Unusual, Canopy and Stars, if you look on there, some of the buildings are just so simple, but just different, and people like different. It just seems to be trendy at the moment. Yeah, I think you need to stand out.
Excellent. What type of insurance do you need for a treehouse days?
Again, I think they didn't really know what to do when we approached them about a treehouse, but we're just with I can't even think who we were with. I think we were with Caleb Roberts, and we were with the NFU. So it's things that it can be done. Yeah, it's quite straightforward, to be honest. It's just like we had to stipulate that we had like fire extinguishers in there and a fire evacuation plan, and yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Excellent.
There's plenty of people congratulating you here and enjoying the presentation and your diversification project, so well done on that. Question about toilet waste. How is that treated?
So we've got septic tanks for each of the tree houses, and they are in the ground just outside. Well, not just outside, just a bit of a distance away. So yeah, it's all building works that were all done on site. Like I said, with Treiscombe, it was all just such an effort to get things over there because there was no road to it, and it was 3 fields away. So that's why we were on hold for so long, because it was just so wet. It was just rubbish. So that might be something you need to consider is when you do start, where your location is, and when you do start in the year, that you want to be starting at a dry period, really. So when you're doing all the groundworks, that you haven't got the risk of rain. But who knows with this country?
As a business on a normal year, you'd accommodate all year round of you.
Yeah, so we're open all year round. That was, again, we didn't really know. When we first looked into doing tree houses, we thought to do something quite basic and have like a compost toilet. Yeah, and as it went on, John and I just felt that your market's quite is a lot smaller than if it was a luxury. You're going to get more people that are going to want to be coming to something with a flushing toilet and a hot tub and lovely furnishings than something quite basic. And I just felt I wouldn't go somewhere like that in December in a cold month. So we were trying to just think of our best way of generating an income all year round, really. So we decided to go down the luxury route.
Excellent. Questions are still flying in, so I'm trying to go through them as they've arrived to me. Did you have to sign up with Camping and Stars for a year?
Yes, yeah. And actually with this third tree house, I'm quite tempted to not sign this third tree house up now, because we are just getting so many direct bookings via Instagram, via Wunderlist, and just via Google. But John's quite keen to be listed because it's such a good brand to be listed with at the moment. They have got excellent customer services. I'm really advertising for them now, but they have been brilliant, and they handled everything really well in the lockdown, and looked after us as customers. And we kind of went with what they were doing with all of our direct bookings. So back in the summer, we only had to refund about 4 guests in the end because they just moved everybody's bookings over to 2021. So that was brilliant for us in terms of cash flow. Not so great now because we haven't got much availability for 2021. So the cancellations that are coming in now, we're going to have to refund. So that's quite a concern for us at the moment.
Huge pressure on cash flow, I assume, isn't it?
Sorry?
A huge pressure on cash flow.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't looked into it too much about what the government are able to do in terms of support, but I do hope that they will be able to, because it's make or break for a lot of small businesses right now. Exactly,
yeah. Next question is regarding a person having a shepherd's hut business and a barn conversion and would like to go on Instagram. How do you start? So you mentioned to me earlier that you...
So you've got a barn conversion and a shepherd's hut.
Yes, that's right.
So I would suggest having a name for the business and not going as 2 separate Instagram pages. And that was something I did to start with. Our Instagram page started off as just Trouscombe, but to keep on top of 2 pages, then if I was to separate all of the accommodation, so definitely create an account with a name, an overall name.
Good. So if anyone isn't following you, under what would they find you on Instagram at the moment?
We're at Squirrel's Nest.
There we go.
_ I think.
Right. So hopefully we can help you with the 12,000 followers and we can get that hopefully. Do you think there'll be a saturation point?
Again, this is something that John and I talked about. Where before we started, we were like, gosh, there's a lot of accommodation in our area. Like, is there going to be a point where there's too many? But it doesn't seem to be the case. And especially what's going on with COVID right now, people aren't going to be wanting to travel abroad for many years. So I think it's a great opportunity to be diversifying into some sort of accommodation in our country. And there are some absolutely amazing properties about, people that really spend a lot of time, effort, money into making sure that everything is right and perfect for that guest experience.
Excellent. An interesting question now about your farming system. So do you still farm? Do you think being a farm will deter visitors, especially with the increased popularity of veganism?
Yeah, so we've got quite a small farm really. So it's only about 130 acres. So we intended this to be a bit of a sideline to the farming, but it's definitely supporting the farming now. This is. I don't feel that this will ever affect us because we do get a lot of diverse people coming to us. they don't come down onto the farm. They don't ask questions. We do get the odd message saying, oh, there's a lamb in the field that's lame, and we just thought we'd like you to know. And so people are just really caring and worried, and we're like, yeah, they're fine, we had them in yesterday or something. And but no, everyone is just generally just quite happy to escape and be in the countryside. I suppose it all depends on where you have your accommodation on the farm.
Because I suppose it could be a selling point as well, looking at the other side of that.
Yeah. So we offered like tours around the lambing shed the last couple of years. But like they're just quite happy just to hold a lamb.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Next question. Do you provide a welcome hamper gift? Do you think it's important?
Yeah. So we, either my mum or John's nan or one of our cleaners will cook Barrabrith or Welsh cake. So that's always a big thing. A lot of guests mention about the homemade cake, and especially because we leave a little tag saying it's been homemade by those people. So it just makes it more personal. And we provide just a basic hamper of Welsh produce. So like some sparkling lemonade, Welsh tea, some coffee pods, yeah, just something quite basic, but just appealing on arrival.
Excellent. Next, well, both next questions are regarding your profit margins. I think we haven't discussed the financial parts of it. So the first question asks, what's your profit margin? Are you already seeing a profit? The second one is asking what profit margins you make on tree houses.
It's quite hard to actually stipulate how much profit we are making, because we have been using our income to build the other tree houses. So it's quite difficult to state, but we'll know once we finish the third, because I think we're not going to do another one. I think this will be our last. So hopefully we will see then. But it's definitely making lots of money. And I think for us, John, building it was a huge cost saving for us in the build.
Excellent. There's a few questions already been answered about the septic tank. Do you have access to mobile phone network, Wi-Fi at the tree houses? If not, have you found this to be an issue with some guests?
So we looked at putting Wi-Fi into Trowscombe, but it was, again, that was going to be a huge cost, because we'd have to get a BT line taken to the house, to the tree house. So we decided not to, and just thought, let's risk it, and we'll just we'll look at it again. And to be honest, I think in the 2.5 years we've been open, 2 people have left a message to say that it was a shame that there was no signal, because we haven't got 4G over there either. It's literally nothing. And I think that's part of the reason why I like staying over there, is because you just can disconnect. You're on holiday, aren't you? You're supposed to be disconnected with the world. And we provide, well, there's a TV, there's games, there's cards. And that's because a lot of families go over there, so they all feel that they actually connect as a family again, because there's no phones.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah, so I think it's been a positive. So we decided not to bother in Cadwallons, and we're not bothering with the third either.
Do you think it's important to tell people that there isn't access to Wi-Fi and 4G?
Yeah, so it's on our website that there's no access, and on the welcome pack that I send them, so they are aware. And if they really need it, they can just go for a walk and find 4G. Excellent.
How close are you to local amenities and services?
Oh gosh, we're quite away. Well, I don't know. We're about 20 minutes. So the nearest garage is about 20 minutes. Knighton is about 20 minutes from us. So we do get a lot of guests arriving, say on a Friday night at 9 o'clock, because they come straight to us from work, and then they go back out to Tesco. They like in the welcome pack, I always sort of say we're in quite a rural area, so come prepared, but sometimes they don't. So they're not getting back till 10 o'clock. So all you can do is tell people, can't you? But yeah, 20 minutes.
There we go. You mentioned earlier about the borehole. Does the water have to be treated with UV filter or anything to make it safe to drink?
Yeah. So we have environmental health involved. They were actually out a couple of weeks ago just to test everything. Again, didn't even think about things like that. So yeah, but it's all right, and we know it's all right and safe for the guests. So if it costs and it keeps everybody safe, then that's fine with us.
Excellent. What council are you with?
We're with Powys County Council.
Because I assume there's variances within different councils, and I think that's where it's important to look at your own council and have a look at the planning and have that discussion.
Yeah. And like when you do look at all kinds of accommodation all over the UK, you wonder, how have they got planning, or how have they not got a sprinkler system, or like it just varies across the countries and across the counties.
There we go. What's the heat source for the tree houses?
The heat source, did you say? Yeah, it's electric. So we have quite large bills. That is an issue. But this next tree house is going to have an air source heating system. So hopefully that will reduce costs a bit. We've put thermal heat panels on the Cadwallon's tree house. So that helps as well, because that's in quite a good spot there to attract the heat. Sorry, I said it was really miserable here, but it's gone quite sunny.
You can see the sun on you.
Yeah.
What's your unique selling points?
Do you know what? We didn't know what our unique selling point was, because we didn't think anyone was going to come to us. But I think it's because we are remote. We're remote and we're far enough away from life, I suppose. People can switch off, and the majority of our guests park up, go over with their wheelbarrows and stay on site until they leave.
So what are people looking for when approaching you or when booking? What's the main things they look for?
They do like the hot tub. They like the fact that it has got one. The views, the countryside, the sheep, the wildlife. We've put some bird feeders up, and people just love watching the birds, and they comment on the birds. We put a bird diary in, so that's quite a thing. So there's lots of chat in this bird diary about all the different kinds of birds that are there. Yeah, it's just being remote, really.
There we go. What occupancy rates are you achieving?
At the moment, we're 100%. We've got no availability. We've got some for Trowscombe Treehouse in the spring, but Cadwallon's is fully booked until July next year.
There we go. So with regards to the stays, do you offer short stays?
Yeah, we this is something actually I've spoken to some friends about recently. We do offer 2 nights. So our changeover days were Monday, Wednesday, Friday. To start with, we were quite flexible, but it was just quite chaotic. We didn't know where we were. We didn't know about linen. The cleaners didn't know where they were. So we decided to make it quite strict. And it was quite a risk at the time, because we thought it might affect bookings, but it didn't. So we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday changeovers. But I was talking to a friend recently, and they're from a city. They work Monday to Friday, and she notices that a lot of accommodation has a minimum night stay of three nights, which I get. But to people that are busy and work Monday to Friday, they can't come for 3 nights. So it puts a lot of people off some accommodation. So it's just something to consider, is possibly changing your minimum night stay, so it's doable for people.
On that question then, how do you feel about your cleaning schedule I assume with regards to the COVID? Is that...
Yeah, we're quite thorough, so we've got like processes now that the cleaners follow. Yeah, so we've just we've brought forward the check-out time now, so it gives the cleaners longer to clean thoroughly over everything. So yeah, we're sort of used to it now, I suppose. We've had a few months to get into the swing of things.
Excellent. Questions are still flying in, so it shows there's huge interest. We were hoping to finish at 12, but we'll try and squeeze as many as we can in. How many tree houses are you hoping to have in total?
So we think we're finished. We think we've gone for the 3rd. So the ground that we live on at the moment, it's only about 70 acres where we are. and we want the tree houses to be far enough away from each other so that people feel private. And we've run out of trees. We need to plant some more trees. And so we've actually got quite a flat patch on the top of our hill that's got a tree up there, but the electricity connection from there is a huge distance. So it's something that we've just decided we'll just go with the 3 for now and see how we go.
There we go. Questions have just moved to you. So with regards to the cleaning, so do you hire staff currently, or what's
Yeah, so we've got a cleaner for each tree house, and they're self-employed at the moment because they do other work for other people. So yeah, we've got one for each, and then we'll be getting another for the 3rd tree house.
There we go. So do you have any advice for a family trying to start a similar business in an open, not secluded space, please? Open or not secluded?
So it's not secluded, but it's got trees.
There's no mention of the landscape.
All I would say is just research the type of accommodation that you want to look into. There's like a wealth of information on booking agents, so you can really get to grips as to what type of structure you want to build with the landscape that you've got. But yeah, I hope that answered your question.
There we go. How did you choose the design of the rooms? Did you have to use an interior designer?
No, it was just me going, I don't know, it was just, for example, at Tryscombe, there's a yellow chair, and I really wanted this yellow chair, and John thought, oh, that's a bit bright, isn't it? It's a bit out there. I was like, oh, I don't know, it'll look all right. And everything sort of then went around this yellow chair. I don't know, like there was no plan really. I just sort of went as we went along. So yeah.
It's a compliment to you then, Laura.
Thank you.
So what do you offer for children to make it more suitable for all ages?
Yeah, so we've actually, whilst we were in lockdown, I sort of devised a bit of a booklet called Adventures Await. So for Tryscombe, we can accommodate 2 children. So I've just done like a lovely little booklet of all the different activities that they can do in the grounds, and John constructed a little tiny tree house. So it's like a little playhouse with a ladder, and he's put that by Tryscombe so that little can play in there. And then we've just got like a box of like a den making kit, just ideas for children and well, families to do whilst they're there, just to connect.
So you mentioned we talked about the energy or the heating earlier. Do you plan to reduce the carbon footprint, use solar panels, etc.?
Yeah, it's something that we're doing with the 3rd tree house as well, but I think we're struggling because we are in the trees with this next one. But it's something that we are looking into in the future to reduce costs as well, because the electricity bills are quite large. The hot tub is on all day, every day, 365 days a year. So and when people go away, they're not so conscious about turning the radiator off if they go off for a walk, or if it's too warm, they'll just open the doors and things like that. So it just comes with the job really. But it's just something to consider, yeah.
Final 2 questions, I think. Do you have to change the hot tub water on every change?
Yeah, and it's because guests come in every 2 days. And our hot cylinder tank is as big as it can be in the plant room, which is underneath the treehouse. It's quite difficult to get it really relatively warm for when guests arrive. So it's just something we just have to go with. And we tell them before arrival that the temperature might not be up to 37 by the time they get there, but it will be that first evening. It's just one of those things. It needs to be cleaned. So
yeah. Do you allow pets?
No, and we get a lot of people saying that they've got a lovely little Chihuahua who's really well behaved and doesn't molt and things, and they could be lovely pets, but we want to stick to what we're saying in our policy really. We've got to think about people's allergies. So yeah, no, we don't.
Is there anyone on social media particularly inspires you?
I follow a lot of accounts. I think something that I need to develop on is just becoming more personal and people seeing us behind it all. I feel like I need to get better at. But there's nobody in particular that inspires me. But just follow like-minded people and just take notes. That's how I've learned, is just taking notes and copying people.
There we go. So I assume it's a matter of following as many people as you can and pick
Yeah.
up ideas from everyone.
Yeah.
Another question here. How do you address health and safety with tree houses, liability, etc.?
So we've got public liability and insurance, obviously, but we just make it as safe as possible, really. For instance, like all the decking, we've painted all that with like non-slip paint. We just do our utmost to make sure it's as safe as possible for guests.
There we go. I think it's a final question here about planning. My understanding is that to get planning in rural areas only for farm diversification, where the diversification project complements the farm. What would you say the split is here?
Say that again, sorry.
So just a query regarding farm diversification, really. So to get planning needs to complement the farm. So how did you work out the planning here? What was it, a part of the farming business, or was it a separate business altogether?
This was going to be a separate sort of entity to the business, to the farm. But obviously it's all on the farmland. But we felt it complemented them because of the structures, because they're quite rustic. They blend in with the surroundings. So we felt that it was in keeping and that it would flow across the farm.
There we go. And you'll be glad to hear, is the final of the questions.
Okay.
Can I take this opportunity to thank you, Laura, and to congratulate you again for the business you've got. Just looks so unique and spectacular, fair play. And thank you everyone for all the questions you've had. I think the amount of questions we've had shows that there's huge interest, and hopefully we can push that 12,000 figure up for you as well. So thank you, Laura, for your presentation, and thank you everyone for joining. There's been plenty of people joining over Facebook and on Zoom. So thank you very much, and good afternoon to you all. Diolch am ymuno a pnawn da i chi gyd. Thank you.